Ан Кюсак. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, yes, it's my pleasure.
This is Off News. It's one of the last free media in Bulgaria, so for us it's a great honor. But you know that the intelligent people will watch you, so.
Well, that's fantastic.
In terms of media freedom, how are the things now in the States?
You know, people still have their freedom to speak, whatever their particular feelings are. You know, you've got Musk who's censoring people on X. The Trump years really created this us and them, and that if you don't have my opinion, then I need to destroy you, as opposed to just going, I agree to disagree. So there's been a real division, and there's been a real problem with that. I think social media has also been a factor in the fact that people don't understand that we have so much more in common than we do differences, and that the ability to communicate and find out where we're similar, and to be able to have a discussion where you're learning other points of view and being able to understand that so that you have some kind of compassion, we have to find our way back to. I think it's very, you know, my country's a mess.
Not only
in
yours.
Certain ways, yeah, you know, in certain ways, there's so much violence, whether it comes in a verbal form, emotional, or, you know, physically, what's sort of happening, and it's so important that everybody step up to try to dissipate, that, and know that, you know, for the most part, people really are decent, and they're coming from a well-intentioned place. So I feel like as a result of everybody not having the same platform of information, because mostly news media have to make money, they have to make ratings, so that they have started tailoring the truth to what they want you to hear, so that you hear it. And then with the cancel culture, on top of that, it's also kind of problematic, I think. So no one really has this same, you know, if I felt that that the 2020 election had been stolen, I would be really angry and upset too. But it wasn't, and you had people perpetuating that lie, and as a result, because of the news media outlets not giving the same information, and people not stepping up and going, I know you don't like the result, but this is the truth about what happened, and you've got in 4 years, you can elect somebody else that you want.
And
So,
you know, you mentioned cancel culture. Every extremity, everything that's too much is not, I feel, right, and in both ways. And we live in time now also with the wars that started and are ongoing, where you have to define yourself, but either is
so
not
awful.
the right, you know. Here, the cancel culture and all that quote type of censoring is not here yet, but it's the opposite of another type of censoring and censorship, and both are too far away from what we, as you said, as humans want to experience, right? I mean,
I will say that, you know, in the United States, what is so great about it is if you want to have conversations, you can have them. That there really still is, in our rule of law, freedom of speech. So the possibilities of having difficult conversations, of exploring things that are not comfortable, that hearing things that you may not like, or finding out that maybe your information was skewed, you can still have that and not worry about being put in jail or being killed.
But elections are coming, and your elections will influence all of us in a very, very hard way.
I mean, I don't know that that everybody in the United States really understands that our democracy is really at risk. It isn't one individual issue, whether it's abortion, immigration, guns, whatever it is. We cannot solve any of those things if we don't have a democracy. And right now, our democracy is hanging on a thread. And if Trump gets in, we will lose our democracy.
Yeah, and
that's my personal opinion from the information that I have and from the sources of information I have. That's the conclusion that I have come to.
Exactly. Speaking of your acting career,
yes.
I was very impressed that you actually come from theater. And you were raised in Chicago, where theater is very, very strong.
It is.
And you decided to be an actress when you were 8, 9 years old.
Yes, I know.
So
crazy. And now I'm a woman of us for that.
How did you make this decision?
I don't know if it was a decision, a conscious decision. It was just...
You found your purpose.
Yeah. I mean, my mother wanted to give us a whole bunch of different experiences when we were kids. And we found our way to the theater games and acting and training at the Piven Theater Workshop in Evanston, Illinois. So myself and my sister Joan and then Joan, we were all in the very early beginning stages of this training and theater company. So
what plays were you in as a kid?
Well, we mostly did a lot of story theater, literary story theater, improvisation, Viola Spolin and Paul Sills sort of stuff. So it was taking literary works and kind of breaking the fourth wall and telling these stories. So I was, you know, we did stories from Flannery O'Connor or, you know, like Caulfield Holden. We did myths, archetypes, fairy tales, all that sort of stuff. So instead of just hearing myths and fairy tales and archetypes, which are very important for the development of kids, you know, in terms of the stories, we actually got to perform them.
What was your favorite fairy tale? They say that we live through the scenario of our fairy tale through our whole life.
Oh my God, well, I got to play a lot of different ones as a kid. So it was, we did like Rumpelstiltskin, and we did
Rapunzel.
We did a Flannery O'Connor story when I was a little bit older, Temple of the Holy Ghost. Then we did the Salinger did nine stories.
The 9 stories, they're so great.
I know. Just the War Before the Eskimos, I think, was one of the stories, and so you know, I grew up with doing all these
literature, theater.
Yeah.
And what about your siblings?
They did the same thing.
Right, and I heard that they taught you how to be an actress, or you mutually influenced each other, and still are they supporting you? Are you supporting them? Are you going to premieres?
Well, we all kind of like grew up in the work together.
Right.
So my sister and I were in the same theater company growing up. John's a bit younger than us, so he was in a younger, you know, part of the group. I've been to many of John's premieres. Joni's been doing a lot more sort of television, and she's been doing films too. So, you know, when we're available, we'll go. If we're working, we don't. I'm continually inspired by them. I think they are just extraordinary actors.
Do you live in different parts?
We do. John and Joan are in Chicago. I live in both LA and London and the south of France. So I kind of bebop around a little bit more.
And your first role in a big movie was with Tom Hanks and Madonna. Why just go to
League of Their Own,
smaller ones when you can just jump in, right?
Right. Yeah, that was
cool.
Well, it was extraordinary.
How old were you?
I was 27, I think I was, 28.
So you weren't that young back then.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't that
Yes,
quite young. I mean, John carried his first film when he was 17. I found my way to it later on in life. But yeah, no, I couldn't believe I got cast in that movie, and it changed the trajectory of my life. And I'm still in touch with a lot of the other women who are my teammates. And still some of the original women baseball players I'm friends with. So, I mean, it was, you know, that was an amazing, I mean, I just was, all I cared about was that I just, you know, I got along with everybody, I wasn't intimidated, and they kept my scenes in the movie, and it became more than that. I mean, it was just...
It was a great movie.
Yeah, I mean, Tom was fantastic, and Gina, and, you know,
You know, he's married to a Bulgarian, Tom Hanks. She's, her
Rita
father
Wilson?
is a Bulgarian. Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks? He's
Yes.
married to Rita Wilson.
Yes, and she's a daughter of a person who was born in Bulgaria.
Oh,
Yes.
that's so great. She also has Greek on her side,
Yes,
too.
they
So
do,
she's
and
both Greek and
that's-
Bulgarian. Yeah, she's, you know, amazing woman.
Rita
The two
Wilson.
of them are quite the power couple.
But then I teach some young actors. Of course, we don't have the same system here. We don't have agents. We don't have that many castings. But what would you say was the thing that actually put you on the track, that gave you the opportunity to actually work in film and series and television? How should they proceed with that? What should they necessarily do? Aside from, we have a 4-year here, National Theatre and Film Academy, professional education we have. But then, what's the next step?
Well, it's very, well, for how young actors get into film and television?
Yeah,
or into
pretty
theater?
much. Yes.
That would take a you know, like an hour conversation, just because it's different now than
It was.
when I was starting. The thing is that it's if you're supposed to be an actor and be in it, then it'll happen for you, and it's being able to recognize when an opportunity presents itself. The industry is based on relationships, so it's people knowing one another. I always feel like I know it's such a silly thing to say, but manners are very important. Saying please and thank you are very important. If somebody does something for you, you say thank you if it helped you along the way, depending on what it is that they did to help you. Either it's flowers or a car, or maybe, you know, whatever it is. And then there's so many different platforms now that
There is job.
there are jobs, and it's also, this is a time of diversity. I think it's also, as well as trying to get hired by other people, create your own things. I mean, you can take your phone
And shoot.
and shoot. And it's about, you know, using YouTube or your websodes, or you know, doing the traditional routes of, you know, being in theater and finding an agent and having somebody represent you, and you know, go to film schools. And everybody in film is eventually wants to be making their own films, whether it's writing it, directing it, or producing it. So these are the next, you know, Scorsese's and Meryl Streep's and all the great sort of designers and actors. So start forming relationships and get some, for actors, you know, mostly your calling card is any tape you have on it. So even if you work for free to work with other film students, get some tape on yourself and put together your calling card, which is what you can then show and submit to agents to get represented. But there's so many different ways in which you end up getting cast.
We couldn't go through the whole different films and TV shows you've been to because they're giving me a sign, but
Okay.
we were just watching in my house Breaking Bad, and we're so thrilled by the writing, by the direction, by the acting. Yes,
it's an amazing
and
series.
You've been to Better Call Saul.
Yes,
which
I did.
We haven't watched yet, but yeah, it's that's the new cinema right there. Very good writing, very good directing, very good actors, extremely great actors.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, it was a. I felt very privileged to work on Better Call Saul.
And then the last thing you're working on though is
was Ripley.
How is it?
Ripley, which is based on, this festival is booked to film, and Ripley is based on The Talented Mr. Ripley, the book that they then put into a series with Andrew Scott.
So how is it?
Oh, it's. Have you seen that, Ripley?
No, not yet.
Oh, it's fantastic. The cinematography is just amazing, and Steve Zalen did an extraordinary job with the series. I mean, and Andrew Scott is just fantastic. I mean, it's a great series. You gotta be with it. So, yeah, it's visually stunning.
So you've been here for like one day, but still, what's your impression from Cine Libre, the festival?
Fantastic. They're great. This is a great festival, and I think it's such a from book to film is such, you kind of go, why hadn't somebody thought of that before? But it makes total sense. And the number of screens, the amount of films, how international it is. It's just global in terms of the artists that are being seen and watched, whether it's directors, actors, cinematographers, production designers, makeup. I mean, it's just fantastic.
When is the next concert of Generation Jones?
Yes, hopefully I'm working on a show with another actress by the name of Elizabeth McGovern, and we're going to be doing some shows in London in November. And then hopefully we're going to be doing it in New York as well. So in 2025 Manhattan. So at Joe's Pub.
Joe's Pub.
Yeah, at some point. So we're finishing the contract stuff right now. So
great.
Yeah.
And you play mainly blues, but not only, right?
It's original R&B and then blues.
R&B, yes.
Yeah. So I don't claim to be I'm nothing like, Ma Rainey or Shamika Copeland or Susan Tedeschi or Bonnie Raitt or Big Mama Thornton or Sister. I mean, I wouldn't even aspire to be in the same sentence with those profound, amazing women. But I am singing some of the songs, and it's a privilege to do that.
We want to hear you. Welcome.
Okay.
We'll be there.
Come.
In New York.
Yes, come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. People's voices must be heard.
Exactly.
And when people don't like what's being said, learn how to handle that. I mean, it's important that we learn how to hear other people's opinions when we don't like them.
Exactly.
And that.
And vote also.
Oh,
go vote.
Do not underestimate the power of the vote. No, do not underestimate.
And the bad guys win always when you don't vote.
That's right. I mean, the thing is that people in other countries literally die for the right to vote. People will spend hours and hours in line to make their voice heard. Exactly. Because that's a reaffirmation of the democratic process, and that you can vote out those people that you don't like. But everybody has to participate. It's your civic duty. I mean, I don't understand why there isn't like a day where everybody is legally required to vote. Everybody takes the day off and you go vote in national elections, in local elections, and you make your voice heard. Now, if there isn't a particular candidate you don't want to vote for, you don't have to. You can just put, NA or doesn't apply or whatever it is. But the physical act of going and voting is very important.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
So sorry to bend this. Thank you so much.